Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 26th of June, 2023. We are live tonight on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel. I think on the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel, my StreamYard software says that I'm streaming there, but I couldn't log into my Odyssey account. It says that it's down for scheduled maintenance. But the good news is, as long as I reset the stream keys every week, I am again live on Rumble, so I seem to have ironed that out. But I see most of you, because it's the most easiest to watch YouTube. You're all here in the live chat. Hello to Linda, Dawn, Peak Aussie Man, and Brucey with an alternate title for tonight, Total Transvestite Delegitimization. Yes, I could have called the show that as well. And as always, on the interactive entropy software, which I've put the link into the live chat, we can send through a direct question or send through a super chat to support not just this program, but other Unshackled productions. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, but I'll start with what should be the biggest story in the world right now, and that is the corruption of the United States justice system. Well, I'm pretty black-pilled on the current state of the United States justice system. It's supposed to be a beacon of liberty, freedom, and equal justice for all. But sadly, that is not the case, as the latest example with President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, getting a sweetheart deal through the Department of Justice, which is headed by that piece of shit, Merrick Garland. So Hunter Biden, this was just announced, I think, on Wednesday evening, that it had already been all negotiated that Hunter Biden would plead guilty to two tax charges and one firearm offense, because he purchased a gun without disclosing that he was a drug addict, and so he will get no jail time, and he'll get into a diversion program, which I'll take you to this article on the Federalist, which shows just how, well, it's not even a slap on the wrist. It's just sort of basically a tap on the wrist. So the feds are notoriously tough on firearms. Nationally, for example, 94.2% of federal firearms convictions in 2022 involved some prison time, and the median sentence was 39 months. And it goes down here that Joe Biden's Department of Justice, in defending a firearms laws in courts, Joe Biden signed a law in 2021 to increase the maximum penalties from 10 to 15 years in prison. But obviously, when it's his son, as the old meme from 2016, it had Hillary Clinton's face, "Silly Americans, laws are for poor people to obey." Well, it's for those who the deep state favors, the laws don't apply to them. I mean, Donald Trump is certainly not poor. He's a billionaire. Can you imagine him getting such a sweetheart deal, whether it be over the Stormy Daniels alleged hush money or keeping classified documents? Remember, Mike Pence was cleared of the same offense, and will there be a sweetheart deal if he's charged over January 6 or the phone call to the Georgian governor after 2020. Dawn Browning said, "He's been a very naughty boy." Yes, Hunter Biden has been an extremely naughty boy. And I've previously said, if Hunter Biden wants to smoke crack and have lots of sex, that's none of my business. But according to the law, he's committed several felonies, yet he is getting this. It reminds me actually of the sweetheart deal that Alan Dershowitz was able to negotiate for Jeffrey Epstein back in 2007, signed off by Costas, who was President Trump's Labor secretary. He was the Southern Florida federal U.S. attorney there, and Epstein only had to do about 18 months of it wasn't even jail. He had to check into jail on the weekends, got day release. That was all negotiated between Epstein's lawyers. He pleaded guilty to one charge of soliciting soliciting prostitution from a minor, and it was, I mean, good luck to anyone else who'd been accused of running an underage sex trafficking ring, getting the same sweetheart deal. I mean, anyone accused of that should be in prison for life. And now there was already one IRS whistleblower, but now there's two talking about the preferential treatment that Hunter Biden got and the corruption of the investigation.
And to add to all of that, the legal issues surrounding the president's son, Hunter, the latest of which is an accusation by two credible IRS whistleblowers claiming misconduct by the Department of Justice and the FBI during the investigation of Hunter Biden. According to transcripts released by the Republican-led House and Ways and Means Committee, one of those whistleblowers, who, by the way, was questioned both by Democrats and Republicans on that committee, former senior IRS agent Gary Shapley, he alleged that Hunter Biden received preferential treatment from the DOJ. Shapley asserts that the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney leading the probe was blocked in his efforts to charge Hunter Biden with more serious crimes than the tax-related misdemeanors Biden agreed to plead guilty to earlier this week.
Like I said, this should be shocking to everybody, but I'm not shocked. I mean, this is how corrupt the US justice system has become. Now, also, a text message has been leaked that Hunter Biden sent to a Chinese businessman when he was in the presence of his father, who was vice president. I won't read it to you. I'll get former President Donald Trump to read it out for you.
Joe Biden is the most corrupt president in the history of our country by far. Just 2 days ago, a very respected IRS whistleblower, used to be very much, you remember when the Democrats used to love whistleblowers? They don't like the whistleblowers now. Revealed that Crooked Joe sat in a room while his son Hunter messaged a Chinese Communist Party official and said to this Chinese Party official, I quote, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled." This is cash he's talking about. Yeah. Tell the director, and it doesn't get reported in the newspapers, tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means right now. It means tonight. You believe this? I didn't know he was that tough. And if I get a call or a text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me, my father, right next to me, Pop, hi Pop, and every person he knows, you will regret not following my direction. Now, can you imagine the newspapers not reporting this? Not a word of it in any of them, mainstream. I'm sitting here waiting for the call, he said, with my father. I'm sitting here with my father waiting for the call. In other words, send us money. Within 10 days, the Bidens got $5.1 million from China for absolutely no reason. They got $5.1 million. In fact, they've taken tens of millions of dollars from China. And that's probably why maybe he's not complaining about the fact that they're building military bases in Cuba. Maybe that's the reason, I guess. Mike, what do you think?
Now, imagine if Donald Trump Jr. had been accused of the same crime. It would be the only news on all the cable networks, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News now in its current incarnation. And obviously, we know that China, as Trump says it, we miss him saying China, is not the only rogue nation where the Bidens have extracted money from. Don't forget, Hunter Biden was on the board of that Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, and Trump got impeached for a phone call with Zelensky where he's just like, yeah, just have a look at this. And remember that Joe Biden, he bragged about on camera that he got a prosecutor fired who coincidentally was looking into his son's dealings with the what he did with the Burisma energy company. Now, there have been some other news that have superseded the Hunter Biden sweetheart deal and more whistleblowers coming forward. The first one, of course, was the Titanic submersive explosion, which happened on Sunday. So I didn't even know what a submersive was. It goes to show show how much I've had to catch up on everything. This meme has been going around on social media. So I'm done being an expert on submersibles. This weekend, I'm a Russian coup specialist. Now, obviously, on Tim's News Explosion, I have to summarize the news and make my best understanding of it to bring it to you. I do a lot of deep diving, pardon the pun, to the bottom of the information ocean. So the implosion happened on Sunday, but the US Coast Guard only found debris of the wreckage on Thursday. So for 4 days, the coverage on all the cable news channels was it's a rescue mission against the clock. They're running out of oxygen. It's trying to find a needle in a haystack. The public was being led on that it could be this amazing rescue mission that could be taking place. But the US Navy, they also detected an implosion that happened. So it says that they conducted analysis of acoustic data and detected an anomaly consistent with an implosion or explosion in the general vicinity of where the Titan submersible was operating when communications were lost. And James Cameron, the Titanic director, he's also a deep ocean diver, he's visited the shipwreck of the Titanic 33 times. The footage that you see in his 1997 Titanic epic of the shipwreck, that's actually the footage that he went down to film himself. That's how immersed he became in making that film, that is now a deep sea shipwreck diver. He said that he knew on Sunday that an implosion had happened. That's what he told, I think, ABC News. And he said the fact that there are all of these alarm bells that have been raised in this with the build of this submersive before the fatal visit. The five people on board have all tragically died, and now there has been a lot of political commentary on implosion and the deaths of these 5 people, all of them billionaires, one a billionaire's son. There's been a lot of people unsympathetic because, well, they're billionaires. Oh, what about all of the refugees who drowned off the coast of Greece? It's always a whataboutism for them. And then there were some such as Paul Joseph Watson and Brendan O'Neill saying that, Brendan O'Neill was talking in his piece was talking about the sneering at these billionaires, while Paul Joseph Watson said that it was a woke company, Ocean Gate. Literally, you could call this disaster Ocean Gate, but that was the name of the company. So those are the two angles there, and then there's also been the debate about, because there's been so many online jokes at the expense of the people who died. There's been jokes that James Cameron is rubbing his hands together at a Titanic sequel because, well, he said on ABC News that it's just like the original Titanic. There are all these warnings about what could happen and what did happen. The same with this submersible. But the reason why there's so many, I would say, black humor jokes about this submersible tragedy is because that's how humans cope with tragedy. That would be a terrible way to die. Just thinking of going on a billionaire's adventure of a lifetime, and it's the end of your life. And so the way you cope with human misery, tragedy, is through humor. It's the old joke about when a soldier's legs are blown off. Another one of the soldiers makes the joke, "Oh, well, at least you save money on shoes." Like, obviously, you would have. It's tragedy has lost his legs, but obviously a way for people to cope in trauma is with humor such as that. So that's what the fact that it's implied that there was some sort of conspiracy to conceal that they'd already died on Sunday, keeping this going. There are rumors that this was a psyop to distract from the Hunter Biden plea deal. The other more extreme psyop conspiracy is that the leader of the Russian paramilitary organization, the Wagner private military company, or it's pronounced in Russian Wagner. A lot of people were making jokes because there is the Wagner family in Queensland who own the Wellcamp quarantine facility. So I woke up into the news on Saturday and I was like, "What? The Wagner Group is in Ukraine?" And then I realized, oh, that's what the private paramilitary group is called. It's basically getting up to speed with it. It's so that the Russian Defense Ministry, they have this private military so they can keep it arm's length, some of the stuff that they're doing in Ukraine. So its leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, I hope I've pronounced that right. He decided, because that he claimed that the Russian military had attacked his 50,000 member Wagner military, that he would stage a coup and march on Moscow. He captured the southern city of Rostov-on-Don, got within 400 kilometers of Moscow, and I noticed all of the commentary on social media. This is the thing about something as big as this, a potential coup of the biggest nation in the world, that you don't know what to believe because there's so much misinformation and disinformation, which of course no government should have the power to regulate, like we'll get to later the Australian government wants to. So you've got so much that you have to sift through. But of course, because the entire mainstream media, political establishment is 100% anti-Putin, they're saying, yes, this is going to be it. He's going to be deposed, and the war in Ukraine is going to be over. But then there was this deal struck with the Belarusian president Alexander Lukashenko, agreed that and Prognitsin agreed that he would go to Belarus. It would be called off, and the Russian military investigation into him would be called off, and peace is restored. Brzezinski said that he didn't want Russian bloodshed on the streets of Moscow. Now, obviously, I'm not a Russian geopolitical expert. Only a few people are. But when it was being hyped up, oh, he's on his way to Moscow. He's gotten past all of these roadblocks. I remember in World War II, Hitler, the Nazi army got within 8 kilometers of Moscow, and well, we know how World War II ended. And then, of course, there was the failed coup against Gorbachev in 1991. But despite the fact that it's been neutralized, the potential coup, all of the mainstream media in Australia political establishment, they're saying, oh, this is the beginning of the end for Putin. He's very weak on the world stage now, and that it's only a matter of time. There's this huge you'd call it misunderstanding, or this or basically this romance that all that needs to be done is for that evil dictator Vladimir Putin to be deposed, and then Russia will turn into a Western liberal democracy. In fact, the fact of the matter is that Prognitsin has even more hardcore nationalist views than Putin. Started off as Putin's chef, was originally a hot dog salesman back in his younger days. There, you know who else was Rukshan pointed this out, who was a hot dog salesman in their youth, Dan Andrews as well. And our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, today, he decided it was the perfect opportunity to provide more Australian money that we don't have to Ukraine. So this is a media release. So 70 military vehicles will be going to Ukraine, including 28 M113 armored vehicles, 14 special operations vehicles, and 28 man 40M medium trucks and 14 trailers, 105 artillery ammunition, $10 million to the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, will total $110 million of from the Australian government, money that, well, is borrowed or from taxpayers there. Now, most of the Russian military didn't leave Ukraine. I mean, while this Wagner group was in revolt, they all stayed put. And there was, again, historical analogies. Oh, this is how the Tsar of Russia was deposed in 1917, because they were fighting on the Eastern Front against the Germans. There's obviously, because not many people understand current Russian geopolitics, so we've got his history. I did study the Russian Revolution in high school, but I do remember after the revolution, the Soviets crushed a military uprising, the Kornilov revolt. Now, moving on to the 2024 presidential campaign, and who I think is going to be the dark horse on the Democrat primary side is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I have a feeling, this is just a feeling, that he could do a Trump. He's polling at around 20%, Biden around 60%. I reckon that he could actually pull it off. And now, obviously, he is not going to be able to debate Joe Biden during presidential primary debates. Neither is Marianne Williamson, but he is getting his message out there and has spoken to Dr. Jordan Peterson, but probably his appearance on the Joe Rogan show last week got the most traction, and it got this pediatric vaccine expert Peter Hertz really upset. And so Joe Rogan invited Peter Hertz on the show because he'd been on Joe Rogan's show to debate RFK and would donate 100,000 to charity. Now I've got this photo here of, have I got it here? I've downloaded so many photos here. No, but this Peter Hertz is a real old, fat, disgusting looking guy, and this is Robert F. Kennedy, who's 69, working out.
I'm not going to touch the bar until I see it stop for more than a second. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Get 6. Run it. Let's go. One more. Up.
I mean, look at, like, I've never seen a 69-year-old with that great body there. And you may remember, if you're a student of US history, that his uncle, John F. Kennedy, part of the reason he won in the 1960 presidential election, well, with a bit of help with the Chicago mob and down in Texas, was because of all the housewives who volunteered and voted for him. Because when housewives back in the day, the women were vacuuming, doing housework, they had the TV on, they just ran the Democrat Party ads that just said Kennedy, and showed showed photos of just how good looking JFK was. It was the first modern example of women voting with their fannies. I mean, we've seen that in Canada with the re-election of Justin Trudeau. And now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., when he was on the Joe Rogan show, he talked about, well, remember when Alex Jones said that there were chemicals that turn the friggin' frogs gay? Well, RFK talked about that one particular chemical and what that could be doing to humans.
There's atrazine throughout our water supply. If you in a lab put atrazine in a tank full of frogs, it will feminize every frog in there.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
And 10% of the male frogs will turn into fully viable females able to produce viable eggs. If it's doing that to frogs, there's a lot of other evidence that it's doing it to human beings as well.
See, Alex Jones, again, right. He's been right about lots of things, but he has definitely been proved right on the gay frogs story. And atrazine, Mark Dice he's done several videos on atrazine, how it could be an explanation of why there are so many more homosexuals and transgender people now. There's always been, the debate is always between nature and nurture, but it could be neither. It could be that the chemicals that we are consuming, drinking, in products such as another one, Alex Jones, the juice boxes have got chemicals which can feminize boys. This is what could be causing, it might not be a social contagion. It could be a chemical contagion. Now, obviously, LGBT Pride Month is continuing. It's thankfully going to be over in a few days, but at the end of June in the Northern Hemisphere, that is when all of the Pride parades are on, which I'm not going to show you some of the more disgusting and filthy footage, which includes adults naked in front of children. I'm not going to show you that, but I am going to show you the New York City Pride March, where I don't know why they think this is some sort of a troll to conservatives, or traditionalists, when it is just confirming what they already believed about the LGBTQ lobby and the groomers. Now, because these are public events, as far as I know, nobody has been arrested for indecent exposure. There could be sex offenders who are marching in these pride parades. I mean, we've seen numerous Antifa members when they've been arrested. It turns out that they've got some sort of criminal record. And a lot of them have groomed children. This has reminded people of the San Francisco gay men's choir song from last year, "We're Coming for Your Children." So I'll play this, and halfway through it focuses on, well, the criminal history of one of the choir men.
But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children.
Bravo 6, going dark.
Now, because the US, I think in all states now, have public sex offender registries, that's why somebody was able to look at the choir list and cross-reference it with sex offenders registry to find that out. In Australia, there is hardly, I think there's only, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any public sex offenders lists. I mean, you could be living next door to a major sex offender. You just don't know. And now, speaking of heinous crimes against children, well, sadly, we shouldn't have to report that it is so widespread. In South Boston, there were 4 children who were rescued from a drug and sex-filled house of cross-dressing drag queens. The police and fire department arrived only because somebody had a cardiac arrest and died, and were able to find and rescue the children.
When they got here, they discovered someone had died and also found that several people were hiding children in a back room. Tonight, 4 children less than 10 years old are in DCF custody after authorities and public officials say they were found in an apartment with 6 cross-dressing men, sex toys, drugs, and alcohol. Firefighters discovered them after one of those adults died at the apartment.
It was obviously sickening, to hear from those that were there at the scene describing what they saw. And the actions of the adults that were in the room.
The apartment was in extreme unsanitary conditions. All adult parties were being uncooperative and denied having children in the apartment.
Drugs, alcohol, drug paraphernalia, sex toys, etc. And so they were concerned. They had reached out to me just to make sure that it didn't get swept under the rug.
The governor says DCF is now involved in investigating.
Just heartbreaking. Terrible situation. DCF has taken those children into its care and custody right now.
Now, there's been no follow-up story about who are the men, have the men been charged? How did the children get into their possession? And this is why the mainstream media and the political establishment are so eager to say, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory that there's widespread child sex trafficking. Only QAnon nutters believe that, and they also believe crazy things that all child traffickers wear matching red shoes. But this is, are there more of such children who are being abused? This should be the second biggest story in the United States, below the Hunter Biden story, because it is sickening. It is, you just feel for those kids. How on earth can that happen in this day and age? And obviously I brought a story to you earlier this year about a Ohio gay couple who were able to adopt 2 children and abuse them and film it and send it to other gay pedophiles. And there was an Australian couple many years back who bought a boy, I think from Russia, and sex trafficked him all around the world to other gay pedophiles, filmed him and circulated it on the dark web. It's just, to talk about it just fills you with such horrific sadness. But all of this is still happening, and we've seen overseas Save the Children rallies that Antifa have actually protested such rallies. I mean, this is the absolute heinous, it's not even cloud world, it's heinous world that we're living in. Now, back here in Australia, well, the drag queen story times continue. There was one in Wollongong on the weekend. I know Joel Davis and his gang protested it, but there were now, I'm not sure if they were Rainbow Community Angels, but there were pro drag queen story time supporters there trying to protect the library. And I'm not sure if anyone caught the last episode of Q&A before it goes on break for 6 weeks. So it was one of their worst shows. If they could go any lower. Sadly, in the recent ABC job cuts of 120, Q&A was not axed. Patricia Karvelas is the temporary host since Tan Grant decided he couldn't cop any more Tan Grant jokes. So this was the final Q&A panel. So it was 50% gay. So Patricia Karvelas, ABC Radio Breakfast host, she's gay. Reuben Kaye, that comedian who made the Jesus nailing joke on the project. Sam Connor, who appeared on the show with a mask, who is also a lesbian. Monique Ryan, she's given up her mask. She's straight, so is Bridget McKenzie and Bill Shorten. And when there was a question about drag queen story time, all of the panelists, they said that they weren't opposed to it. Even Bridget McKenzie, Reuben Kaye defended his Jesus nailing joke, saying, "Oh, there was only an outrage because I'm gay." The Liberals have been so piss weak on the drag queen story time spread of it. And so I was so pleased that there was one Liberal Senator, Sarah Henderson, on Sky News, a former ABC journalist herself, took Reuben Kaye to task and said what we're all thinking about drag queen story time.
Well, firstly, I say to the project that was disgusting, and the project needs to do so much better than that. And there may well be a breach of its code, and there could be an investigation by the Australian Media and Communications Authority as a result of that disgusting content. But why would the ABC do this? I mean, it just does not make any sense to me. Are they only interested in being provocative, on celebrating these so-called ideological agendas? Frankly, I would like to see drag queens out of our libraries, where, of course, they seem to be in every second library around the country, reading to school children or to kindergarten children. But I just say, look, the ABC is really losing its way when it makes those sorts of decisions.
Thank you, Sarah Henderson. Now, she was one of the Victorian Liberals who urged Victorian Liberal leader John Pesutto not to expel Moira Deeming from the party room. It's been reported that John Pesutto is going to rely on a truth defense when he accused Moira Deeming of associating with Nazi sympathizers. So good luck with that defense, John Pesutto, because remember, Moira Deeming is suing him for defamation. Moira Deeming, she was up in Sydney last week. She was invited by the new Liberal Democrats MLC, John Ruddock, who I've had on Wilm's Front. It was called Why Can't Women Talk About Sex? So also there was Sel Grover. She's being sued because she won't allow trans women on a Giggle for Girls app. Louise Elliott, she is a Hobart City councillor, has been taken to the Anti-Discrimination Tribunal. Angie Jones, the host of Turf Talk. Jasmine Suffix, I don't know who she is. Catherine Deeves, she, of course, was the Liberal candidate for Warringah at the last federal election. Kiralee Smith of Binary Australia, who's that trans woman who is playing in women's soccer in New South Wales, put the intervention order on her. And Holly Lawford-Smith is a philosophy academic at Melbourne Uni who was a TERF, who has been targeted by trans activists there. In fact, she needs security now. Now, the National Union of Students, their queer division and Pride in Protest, announced that they would be gathering at New South Wales Parliament House to protest the event. And not surprisingly, they decided that they would interrupt it.
How dare you speak up for us and against us? Get out!
Now, don't these trans rights activists realize that by shouting down these women, that they're playing into their narrative that we're being silenced as women speaking for women? You're giving if you want these women to be ignored, then just let them speak. let them speak, and then it wouldn't be in the headlines as such an event. Now, also attending the event were two elected politicians, Greg Donnelly, who is a Labor MLC, is one of the last social conservatives in the New South Wales Labor Party. And there was also the Liberal MP for Badgerys Creek, Tanya Davies, who she ran for the deputy Liberal leadership, but was unsuccessful. Oh, sorry, there was also another MLC, One Nation's Tanya Millak. Remember, she is the ex-Labor MP who ran for One Nation at the just passed state election. Now, over at the Sydney Royal Women's Hospital, obviously one of the turfs there, their lines are trans women aren't real women. Well, with the continued advances in modern medicine, at the Sydney Royal Women's Hospital, they're now conducting womb transplants where they actually could, I think they're aiming to succeed in transplanting wombs into trans women. So, well, they can be as close to real women as possible. I've got the clip here.
To have this availability, to have the option to say, yes, I want it. And I think that we want to consider where we could go with all of this too. You know, we talk very much about women who've had cancer, and that's such an important thing because they may never had the capacity to have a baby. We've got women who've had to have a hysterectomy because of a catastrophe. And we've also got interest from other groups. So women who were assigned male at birth, you know, the transgender population. We have an option for these people in the future.
A lot of people have commented on this as saying, well, you might be able to do this, transplant a womb into a trans woman, but should you do it? Is this, are we now in the field of human biology, or is it transhumanism that we're now entering into? Now, the discussions that topics that I've just touched upon, will I be permitted on Australia's internet to cover the news that I've had, to have the views that I've had, to have the conversations, discussions that I've had with you, my audience, given that we have two Australian government agencies who are wanting to crack down on online hate and disinformation. And the first, who has been on quite a rampage against Twitter, Australia's Each Safety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant. So she is now using powers available to her under the Online Safety Act 2021 that was passed by the Morrison government. She's aiming to compel Twitter to explain how they're implementing online safety expectations, and will fine them 687,000 Australian dollars every day for non-compliance. Scott Morrison's government reappointed her for another 5-year term in January 2022. She was on a salary of $445,000 per year. And she went on ABC News Breakfast this week to talk about why she was targeting Twitter.
A third of all reports into our Office of Online Hate are coming from Twitter. It's been a huge surge since October 22 when Elon Musk took over. And of course, there have been a confluence of factors that have added to this. You know, Twitter's always been fiery in terms of discourse, but it's turned into an absolute bin fire. It's very, very hard to be permanently banned from Twitter. You have to be the most egregious, repetitive spewers of hate to contravene the Twitter rules multiple times and be banned. But what we want to know is, who are these accounts? Are they given special dispensation? Are they able to tweet without immunity, particularly if they're paying for a Twitter Blue subscription? A lot of the changes to the algorithms have made people feel like you see more toxicity, much worse, much more coarse discourse. But without lifting the hood and using these transparency powers, we really don't know what's happening. And this is where we're trying to get to the bottom of things.
As Dawn Browning said, Imran is an ex-Twitter employee and a WEFA, World Economic Forum attendee. You can't expect a better lockstep person who has the 100% backing of the Australian government. It's bipartisan. Tony Abbott set up the e-safety commissioner. So if there's any Liberal or National Party MP who says, that this is so terrible what the e-safety commissioner is doing, you guys set up this organization and appointed her. And she is, she probably has an axe to grind with Elon Musk because she is an ex-Twitter employee. This is what she said in 2018, how pleased she was in Twitter having a more beefed up speech control policy.
When I joined Twitter in 2014, of course, I was empowered by the whole mission of the organization to provide freedom of expression, democratize voices, speak truth to power. But what I saw happening on the inside, where they were making incremental changes to safety, but it was becoming a toxic environment. So it was undermining those very vulnerable voices that were supposed to be singing on Twitter. And it was effectively silencing some of those voices. And to their credit, since 2017, I believe there have been 30 new policies and process and safety improvements that Twitter has made over time. But that's the problem here. If we don't push, if we don't encourage some accountability, and we can do it with the companies, they won't continue investing and innovating for safety. It is a cost, and we have to remember that these are businesses. But I think we have reached a tipping point here. As I think Katzenberg says, technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. So we need to be pushing towards the forces of good, I think.
See what she was saying there, that Twitter, she believed its role was to amplify certain voices which didn't have a voice. So we saw the old Twitter, how, well, if they didn't outright ban, would shadow ban, change the algorithms, which Julian Grant thought was fantastic, until that Elon Musk ruined it all. And at the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos last year, she talked about competing human rights online.
We are finding ourselves in a place where we have increasing polarization everywhere, and everything feels binary when it doesn't need to be. So I think we're going to have to think about a recalibration of a whole range of human rights that are playing out online, from freedom of speech to the freedom to, to be free from online violence, or the right of data protection to the right to child dignity.
There's no such thing as online violence. The computer screen doesn't come out of a fist doesn't come out of the computer screen and punch you. Like, I can't put my fist through the screen and reach someone else. That's not how it works. So she's just talking absolute rubbish there. But Elon Musk, he's deciding to have a bit of fun, in my opinion, with the term online hate, because he's now going to be deeming cisgender as a slur. This is what he tweeted. Repeated targeted harassment against any account will cause the harassing account to receive at minimum temporary suspensions. The words cis or cisgender are considered slurs on this platform. Now, this is particularly badass of him, but when it comes to the principle of free speech, you should be allowed to say cis or cisgender, or what do they call as a slang slur, sissy. There was that South Park episode, the sissy. You should be able to say cis, sissy, tranny, faggot, whatever slur word you want on Twitter. Hurty words aren't real violence. Offense is taken, not given. Now, the Albanese government, they certainly don't want to rein in Julie Imangran. In fact, they want to empower another online regulator with even more censorship powers. So the Australian Communications and Media Authority, they are going to get the power to fine social media companies if they don't have a sufficient code to take down misinformation and disinformation. So this is from the fact sheet that was released yesterday. Misinformation and disinformation spread via digital platform services is a major issue worldwide. The rapid spread of false, misleading, and deceptive information online has resulted in a multitude of harms, from disrupted public health responses to foreign interference in elections and the undermining of democratic institutions. It is extremely dangerous to our democracy, they're basically saying. And with key term there, disrupted public health responses. So clearly the Australian government believed that there wasn't enough censorship online during the pandemic to censor things that have turned out to be true. So it goes on to say, ACMA recommended the government provide it with graduated set of new powers to combat misinformation and disinformation across the sector. These powers would increase transparency, ensure that digital platform services are held to account if voluntary industry standards prove to be inadequate. So I don't know who the current head of ACMA is, but they could go as AWOL, out of control, mad with power, as Julie Imran-Grant is going with now. So we're going to have two Australian government giant bureaucracies, the e-Safety Commissioner and ACMA, to censor what we say online. And notice that it says that false, misleading, deceptive information online can undermining our democratic institutions. Is this code for that they want to censor the debate around The Voice, which the latest poll is that no is now ahead of yes nationally. The latest news poll last night, no is on 47%, yes 43%. And so despite this, and Peter Dutton now urging the Albanese government to ditch the Voice referendum, it's going to go down. Albanese and his Indigenous Australians, Minister Linda Burney, are full steam ahead. Anthony Albanese, he keeps his line is, if not now, for The Voice, when? Well, never. That's what the No campaign is advocating, that we vote this down and that's it. You're not going to try and put it back up in another term. And Linda Burney last week claimed that The Voice would not give advice on Australia Day, even though it can. And there have been yes campaigners who said, yes, we want it to talk about Australia Day. Megan Davis, one of the voice architects, says you won't be able to shut the voice up. Marsha Langton, she has been quite open. People who are opposing the voice referendum are saying we are destroying the fabric of their secret constitution. Yes, that's right. That's exactly what we're doing. I mean, listen to the architects of the voice. They're pretty open about what they want the voice to do. And Fair Australia last week released a ad on another one of the voice architects who wrote the information sheet on the voice, Thomas Mayo. This is who is, like Marsha Langton, is a communist.
The people who stand with me on this stage, I regard as giants.
Thomas Mayo.
Thomas Mayo.
Written a handbook called the Voice to Parliament Handbook. All the detail you need.
Thomas Mayo is a signatory to the Uluru Statement from the Heart, but was also entrusted with the physical document.
Mayo is part of the referendum working group.
He spent 18 months travelling around Australia to garner support for an Indigenous voice to Parliament.
And I tell you what, we are sick of governments not listening to our voice. We are going to use the rule book of the nation to force them.
There is nothing more powerful than building a First Nations voice, a black institution, a black political force to be reckoned with.
Keep going until we change the system, until we tear down the institutions that harm our people.
And also to pay respects to the elders of the Communist Party, who I think, without a doubt, have played a very important role in our activism.
You know, this is the first step. It's a vital step. Pay the rent, for example. You know, how do we do that in a way that is transparent and that it actually sees reparations and compensation to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people?
The power in the voice is that it creates the ability for First Nations to go forth with coherent positions on what legislation needs to be created, what legislation needs to be amended, and punish politicians that ignore our advice.
This is a modest request.
Authorised by Matthew Sheehan, Advance Australia, Canberra.
Now, people in the chat are pointing out that he's only part Aborigine. He's got lots of other ethnicities in his blood as well. But they're all saying, these voice architects, they're saying the quiet part out loud, and it makes it very easy for the no side to just put what they've said openly and communicate, look, this is what the voice advocates, their ultimate goals are. And it's sort of like they're just doing a libs of TikTok thing. That all libs of TikTok ever did was repost what libtards were actually saying. And it got attacked for actually reposting what they were saying. Now, I would vote for the voice on one condition, and that is if every politician's speech was translated to Aboriginal English. You remember that famous Mark McGowan vaccination message that was translated to Aboriginal English? Twitter user Polybart has posted this hilarious translation of Katie Gallagher's speech, talking about what she knew about Brittany Higgins, a rape accusation before it became public. This is her statement being translated into Aboriginal English.
Hi, I'm Katie Gallagher, Labor Senator for the ACT.
G'day, my name Katie Gallagher. She a senator, proper mean one, and I'm the interpreter. And I'm here to black-splain all of her white shit to you, mob.
I was responding to an assertion that was being made by the Minister Reynolds at the time.
That Linda Reynolds bitch set her up good one.
I explained that to Senator Reynolds that night. She accepted that explanation.
But she tell to Linda Reynolds, you keep your fucking gob shut, or Lisa and the pirate, they're gonna fuck you up big one.
Mr. Shiraz provided me with information. I think we've seen that in the paper in the last couple of days.
The Shiraz fella? He go to Katie office, tell her story, a proper sexy one.
I wasn't aware of the full allegations.
Shiraz fella, help Katie understand. He giving simulation on sofa, proper strong one.
And at all times I've been guided by the bravery and courage of a young woman.
Shiraz fella showed to her Linda Lovelace movie. She proper brave one.
I did nothing with that information.
Please subscribe her OnlyFans page. Senator Katie G. Spot. It's the proper sick one.
That is not true. It was never true.
Bullshit, she got big mob subscriber already.
We had known about this for weeks and had made a decision to weaponise it.
They make a big stink because they want to fuck ScoMo up and make election victory safe one.
I've been clear, I've been honest.
Her lips be moving, she be lying.
No, I did not mislead the Parliament.
She misled Parliament fucking big one.
I was given some information. I did nothing with that information.
She get big mob people, make a WhatsApp party until 4 a.m. Proper late one.
So there's absolutely no issue here at all.
Now, it seems to me there's a few people in chat who believe that is a real translation. It's not. It's satire by Polybard. Although he or she, I'm not sure if I'm not sure what the pronouns are of Polybard, because there is no photo. That's just a Twitter name, but satirized the Aboriginal English translation well, because she always said, that lady, proper one. That always seemed to be always what she said, that Aboriginal lady. Now, in Western Australia, this should be another warning of what could happen if The Voice gets up federally. So there is going to be a Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act, which is going to come in from the 1st of July 2023. And so this will require landholders to when they whether it's for mining, agriculture, they will have to do they'll have to get a Aboriginal heritage consultant to basically make sure that they are not according to the Western Australian Government Gazette, the Act protects, conserves and preserves Aboriginal cultural heritage and recognises the fundamental importance to Aboriginal people, its role in Aboriginal communities, past, present and future. The Act recognises the value to Aboriginal people as a West Australian community. And so it goes down, where an activity that may harm Aboriginal cultural history is proposed to be carried out, a due diligence assessment is required to be undertaken, other than for exempt purposes, to assess the risk of harm to ACH, to enable a proponent to determine how to proceed in relation to the activity. So this could hold up agriculture, mining, you name it. And it's a complete attack on property rights, because you can't actually do on your land what you want. And this is the whole the whole contradiction with Aboriginal land rights. Do you own your land? Or, because we're told that there were 300 different Aboriginal nations before Australia was settled by the British. So do you actually own your property, or is there an Aboriginal owner as well that you need to consult with, like a co-owner as well? And this is the Pandora's box, that you don't know what you're getting with the Voice. And because it's no longer the McGowan Labor government, it's the Cook Labor government. They've read this through. They've ignored petitions by farmers and graziers. And going back to Thomas Mayo, in a couple of tweets, he has said, this is what we want after The Voice: reparations, land back, abolishing harmful colonial institutions, getting all our kids out of prison and into care, respect and integration of our laws and laws, speaking language, wages back, all the things we imagine when we demand. And the way to organize this is through a rep body that the politicians cannot ignore, constitutionally enshrined. Paying the rent must be more than your donations to struggling mob, which is important and must be negotiated with the Commonwealth reparations land back. Again, it's all out in the open there. What The Voice is just the first step, and once it's in the Constitution, and Anthony Albanese, his constant attacks on the no side. They're trying to sow division, confusion. Oh, it's all scare tactics what they're doing. Johannes Leak, he had another good cartoon. I remind the fearmongers, chicken littles, and heartless racists to keep things respectful. That's basically what Albanese's strategy is. Now, last week, the Albanese government, because it's been such a disaster, their abolition of the cashless debit card, the basics card, they passed a law to introduce what's called a smart card, which is those communities which have opted into the cashless debit card or compulsory income management. It's called a smart card. So it's not a basics cashless debit card, it's a smart card. And Lydia Thorpe, who's opposed to The Voice because she believes that it's part of the assimilation agenda, she decided that she would call it the racist card. So this is a photo she posted on Twitter. Lydia, I would say this is the more appropriate card for you, and that is the victim card, which has expired. Your victim card long expired. I mean, you're in the privileged Senate, and you're in the, what is it, Qantas Chairman's Lounge as well. So yes, it's been declined, your victim card. It's been maxed out because it's expired. There you go. Now, coming towards the end of the show. And now, did you know that Melbourne was named the world's third most livable city according to the latest Economist Intelligence Unit Global Livability Index? Vienna was number 1, Austria, Copenhagen, Denmark number 2, Melbourne 3, and Sydney number 4. And Premier Dan Andrews, he was eager to spruik this bronze global ranking.
Look, Melbourne's back. Victoria's back. You know, when you think about major events, food, wine, medical research, like in every field, whether it's critical thinking, discovery, all those creative industries, great experiences, Melbourne and Victoria, you know, there's nowhere else like it. And it's great to see that reflected in those world rankings. You know, I won't take up the obvious opportunity to talk about other states in our nation, some of whom have had a lot to say about, you know, luring business. Like, good luck with that. This is the centre of so many things that are important, and this is in every respect the real capital of our nation.
Now, Dan Andrews, when he's referring to leaders of other states, the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, he's in his tweets said Sydney is better than Melbourne. If he was a woman, Dan would have referred to him as that Premier. And well, is Melbourne livable to you? I asked that to Melburnians in the chat. Even Dan Andrews' pollster, Cos Samaras, says that the most livable city ranking has nothing to do with the quality of life for permanent residents in those cities. The measurement is designed to help companies decide how much hardship allowance they would need to pay employees who relocate. Now, if you really care about this stuff, then it's relevant. Obviously, Melbourne at the moment, it's uninhabitable outside. The big freeze has lasted 2 weeks. It's supposed to be only a one-day event, big freeze at the G on the King's birthday, but we're all shivering here. It's certainly not mobile, the city at the moment, with the city broken up because of Dan's Westgate Tunnel project. There's a Berlin Wall for the next 2 weeks between east-west, with the trains not running to the west, replacement buses. The Frankston line is also out of action due to Glen Huntley Station being level crossing being dug up. And of course, crime as well continues to plague this city. Remember last week it was the man threatening to murder women on a tram. This week it was Victoria Police attempting to chase multiple carjackers around the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne.
2 men responsible for a terrifying crime spree in the southeast remain on the loose tonight after evading arrest. 4 innocent drivers were carjacked, with police tonight vowing to hunt them down. Mimi Becker has the latest.
3 hours of mayhem across Melbourne's southeast. 4 vehicles carjacked, speeding across suburbs, driving into oncoming traffic. The criminals still on the run.
So frightening for parents and everybody on the roads.
A bashed-up Honda dumped in Parkdale on the Nepean Highway, later towed away with cannabis clearly visible inside. The offenders carjacked a white Suzuki, cornered by cops in Naringa Avenue, Aspendale. Guns drawn, but they still managed to get away.
He had such a little car and he just managed to get around.
St Louis Primary School ordered into lockdown. Families sent a text. Due to a police incident, we have temporarily held the children back at school. Officers deployed stop sticks in Chelsea, but to no avail. The pair doing a U-turn to continue on their crime spree yesterday afternoon.
It was all really just a bit surreal. Not much normally happens like that in Chelsea.
The white Suzuki then dumped in Springvale, the fugitives hopping into a stolen Mitsubishi Ute. They tried to steal another car nearby before they crashed, minutes later ramming police at Clayton South.
Those 2 officers obviously would be quite traumatising for them.
Around 3:30, they carjacked a Mazda at the Dingley bypass before carjacking a 3rd car and heading down the Eastern Freeway. The 4 dumped on Punt Road at Richmond, where the 4th car was hijacked. That's where police lost track of them. The men last seen travelling in a grey 2009 Ford Falcon station wagon with registration XBX 545. As for what sparked the chase, police say the Air Wing spotted a car that had been stolen in another aggravated carjacking that happened in this hotel car park at Patterson Lakes on Monday. Officers adamant they will catch those responsible.
This behaviour, or abhorrent behaviour, won't be tolerated, and we'll be pulling out all stops and working around the clock.
Mimi Becker, 9 News.
Now, there's still been no update from Victoria Police that they've caught these 2 carjackers. So you're not safe on the roads or on public transport, and you're also not safe in your own home with the home invasions occurring when people are actually home, aggravated home invasions. Victoria Police, they could easily track someone down to give them a fine for not wearing a mask or breaching lockdown. But even though they had all these roadblocks, chases, they still haven't caught this pair. I mean, that's quite incredible. But we'll go briefly over to the UK, which of course has its own crime problem. I'm not talking about the grooming gangs or the legal immigration, but I'm talking about those ultra low emission zone ULEZ camera vandals. I've been covering the ULEZ. They're called the Blade Runners. Now, Katie Hopkins, she rightfully called out the disgusting people who were spraying the ULEZ cameras with filling foam from Toolstation 669. Remember, Toolstation is the choice of vandals and bigots, since all the other hardware chains have got in the UK, you've got rainbow colors for Pride Month. So Toolstation is where the vandals and bigots go in the UK. Now, posted to social media last week was this one particular Blade Runner, who he hasn't just been vandalizing the ULEZ cameras, he's actually been dismantling them, and he showed off a van full of ULEZ cameras that he'd taken down, and he even bragged about how the manner in which he'd taken them down.
This is what one man can do to the ULEZ in less than half a day. Fuck your ULEZ, stick it up your arse, no one wants it, and this is what we'll do every time. I'm calling all people that want to take down these shit cunts. You need is a 10mm socket, yeah, very cheap to buy, to put in your impact drill. They're cheap to buy as well too. And you need a TX30 star bit. I'm trying to see if I can focus that. Yeah, TX30 star bit. And we'll just keep taking them down. Fuck you, Sadiq Khan. Fuck you, globalist shit cunts. Fuck your ULEZ. It might take your blokes half a day to put one up. It takes me less than a minute to take one down. So fuck your fucking ULEZ, shit cunts. This is our country and we're taking it back.
Absolutely disgusting behavior. I mean, that means that ordinary Londoners who don't have these expensive low emissions cars or electric cars, that means that they're driving around the city and they're not being photographed, so they're forced to pay the £12.50 just to drive around London, because Sadiq Khan wants to expand it to all of Greater London. So he is costing Sadiq Khan all of this revenue and leaving it in the pocket of ordinary Londoners. I mean, it is just, I can't believe it. And also, I remember last week Lawrence Fox's disgusting arson of the Pride Progress flag. He was reported to police for, like, his house could have caught fire, in this rage of hate, burning these flags. Now he was reported to police, but they are not. They've decided he has no case to answer for this heinous act of arson, or it's hateful arson, aggravated arson, because he was doing it in hate as well. So yes, that is the crime update from the UK. And interest rates on the rise in the UK as well, because their inflation is still out of control. Interest rates have increased to 5%. And, well, Turkey, their central bank, decided to just go for the ultimate global economic reset, raising interest rates to 15%. And we've got the Reserve Bank of Australia meeting next Tuesday. Rates could go up again. New Zealand is already in a technical recession. Our growth is basically flatlined, but it's not negative. The only place where inflation is beginning to get under control is in the United States, where inflation is 4%. So that'll be good for Biden's re-election prospects next year. That is it for Tim's News Explosion for another week. Thank you for joining me once again. I hope you found it as informative as always. Remember, if you don't want to send through a super chat, you can support the work of the Unshackled, our Unshackled Productions, with a premium membership. Bronze $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, platinum $50 per month. And so there will be, of course, another Tim's News Explosion next Monday, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. Make sure that you like all of the videos, show videos on all of the platforms. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. It all helps with the algorithm. And there are more reports from Tiger Mountain coming out with Richard Woodscroft on the Unshackled main channel as well. And remember, the central point for all this is the Unshackled It's got our Unshackled Production archives and articles as well. Thank you so much for watching. For those shivering this Melbourne winter, stay warm. Remember, stay safe in this third most livable city. Stay sane, stay free, stay happy, stay optimistic, and I will see you again soon. Good night, everybody. Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.